Okay, welcome to this video where we're going to go over the dev kit imports. Dev kit import, how to do them. Okay, so I'm just going to go from the top and I'm going to demonstrate each one of these three ways of importing it. So, like I said, FBX is the most preferred format to be able to import. It does seem to be the most accurate way of importing a dev kit. But it depends on, not every FBX will work. It depends on how the person with the dev kit, who created the dev kit in the first place, how they created their FBX. So that's one of the reasons why we have to have so many different ways of being able to import dev kits into MayaStar. And yeah, I live on a busy street, and so you heard the motorcycle drive by. Okay. So, and you definitely want to click on these steps. Don't click on File, Import, because this actually prepares the scene. When you click on this, you see that Y is up, but the dev kits we're going to be importing, Z is up. So you definitely want to click here, because this preps the scene a little bit to bring it in. So let's go to my desktop where I have an FBX file that I created as a demo. And now you see Z is up. And the avatar comes in correctly. I made this from the MayaStar female fitted mesh avatar, and obviously the skeleton. And when I exported out the FBX, and there's the skeleton, it just kept whatever bones were rigged to the mesh. So anyway, so that's how I made this FBX file, and so it did import with these layers. So it all depends on how the FBX file was created. Some FBX files created in other programs, they may not come in with layers, but this one just happened to come in with layers. Okay, so the very next thing you do after that is you click the MayaStar Step 2, MayaStarizer, and really you can choose either original skeleton or bento skeleton. It really doesn't matter. If it had if it had finger bones and stuff like that, I would probably click the bento skeleton. But I believe doesn't really matter which one you pick. So if we pick the female original, we got female original, and you click MayaStarize. These down here is if for some reason when you imported the FBX, the scales were all messed up. It looks really messed up. You could try clicking these buttons before you do the MayaStarize button to try to fix whatever's here. FBX files usually come in correctly. They're usually not a major problem there. So that's what these buttons are down here for. So now let's just click the MayaStarize dev kit. And what that's going to do is it's going to connect the skeleton to the appearance sliders, and it's going to connect all the animations and everything. But it doesn't bring in all that other extra stuff that you don't really need, because this is just going to be a dev kit that you're going to be rigging to for this particular body. So I try to keep it as light as possible so that it doesn't bring everything in, but it does bring everything you need in order to rig. So if I were, let's close that. So all the female appearance editors work. Like if we go to breast size, they all work. Everything works the way it's supposed to. So just as you're used to. It even has animations. Let me scrub down here. So it has all the animations and everything. So everything works the way it's supposed to. There's a few things that don't, and I'll show you here. Here's the mesh default. See, her body's changed to the mesh default shape, but it didn't change the pose that she was in. Well, if I click Reset Skeleton, it goes back to the actual pose, setting the bones to the default. And of course you have bind pose. I just have, the bind pose and the Reset Skeleton were the same exact bone position, so that's why I didn't do anything when I clicked bind pose. Okay. Some of the things that it doesn't do, that these two particular methods don't do, is you can't use auto mesh resizing, because that relies on a mesh that isn't in the scene, because I made it as light as possible. Okay, so these will keep the bind pose that it was ever exported out with. So if it was exported out with a FBX, it will keep the bind pose of the FBX file. So if somebody had rigged their mesh to an A pose and they export it out with the A pose, when it imports, it will import with the A pose. If they're using custom bone positions, it will import with the custom bone positions. So these are great for that. And this one does the same thing. It will import with the custom bone positions. It will import with the custom bind pose, whatever was for that FBX or DAE. So awesome. So that's FBX import. So let's do another import. Scene, don't save. Let's do an import DAE. Okay, I'm going to switch this to DAE. And this is a file I created. Now, the Slink dev kit comes with a MayaStarized avatar already. I actually worked with Shadeen. She hired me. I created it for her, so that was automatically already connected up to the MayaStar skeleton. So she actually provides a MayaStar file that's ready to go, and is all set up, and everything's is the way it should be. So, but she also provides a Blender file, and I wanted to demonstrate what an Avastar DAE is like, you know, and so that you can see the process. Okay, so and what I did is I selected all of the meshes in the scene in the Blender and exported them out all at once. You can export them out individually if you want, or you can export them all at once if you want. So they're going to come in all at once. So I'm just going to double click and import, and it's going to take a little bit longer because there's like 12 different meshes that are importing. Now, often when you import an Avastar DAE, it will come in will look all messed up. Okay, and that's what we're seeing here. Is it looks like this. It's all messed up, right? Which is normal. I mean, normal for an Avastar DAE. But don't bother trying to use exporting out of Blender as a Collada DAE, the Collada exporter, or the DAE exporter that comes with Blender. I've tried every single combination I could think of to get it to export out properly and import into Maya properly to where I could even fix it if possible to get it to work, and it just was a mess. I could never get it to work. But this I was able to figure out how to fix this, and that's when I wrote the dev kit prepper with Optimo's help. He helped me write this as well. We wrote it together. And so you click dev kit prepper, and now this warning window pops up, and it's telling you have either bind pose 1 is missing, or there's multiple bind poses. It tells you exactly step by step what to do, what you need to do in order to correct it. You can actually see, if we go down to here, it actually did correct most of the problems, but we still have a problem here, and I'm going to correct it real quick for you just to show you how easy it is to do. Open up your outliner, go to display, turn off DAGs only objects, which is what is normally do. For those who have newer versions, you could just hit bind and hit enter, but because I'm on an older version of Maya, I have to put an asterisk after the word bind, which is a wildcard, and hit it, and I get bind. And you can see there's 2 bind poses. Now if this was bind pose 3 and 4 or 3 and 5, you'd want to delete the lower one, and then you'd want to double click here, and you would rename that to bind pose 1. And then you can close this, and I'll just put this back to normal. Then once you do that, that was steps 1 through 5. That's how quick it is once you know how to do it. And then on step 6, it says click the dev kit prepper again. So we click it again. It closes. It did the last step that it needed to do in the dev kit prepper before it's ready to do the MayaStarizer. So now it's ready to do the MayaStarizer. And we'll click MayaStarizer. We see that she has finger bones, so I'm just going to click female bento. Pretty sure you could just click original too. Let's try that and see what happens. MayaStarize. Okay, it came in, and it did come in with a single layer for the skeleton. And if we start the female avatar appearance editor, let's go to, I think, torso, and where's the hands? I think it's at the bottom. Hand size. Yep, they still work. Oh, no, they don't. Haha, so you do. See, this is a good example. If you're not going to be doing anything with the fingers, it'd probably be fine as it is now. It'd probably be fine. It'd probably be fine because everything else would still work. The love handles, the breast size, all the other settings would still work. So it would still work just fine, just the hand size wouldn't work because the fingers aren't getting bigger. So so yeah, so let me do that again. But the animations are all there just like before. New scene, don't save, import GAE, desktop, video demo files, link, hourglass. Is this importing? Okay, it came in, so we click this fixes a skeleton and mesh. We get this warning error again. Go to the outliner. Turn off DAGs only. BIND. Delete this. I think if you do the asterisk after on a newer version, it doesn't really matter. But try it with this BIND first and then hit enter. But make sure you turn off DAGs only. Okay, we can close that. Put that the way it was before. Move this out of the way a little bit. DevKit Prepper. I like clicking the DevKit Prepper. You have to click it a second time. You have to. There's one last thing that has to be done. So if the DevKit Prepper does not run all the way through correctly, and you get that, you do have to make sure you click this a second time after you fixed the bind pose. Okay. Now we'll go MayaStarize. MayaStarizer, female bento. MayaStarize. DevKit. There we go. She comes in. She's got the animations. If we go to bind pose, she goes back to the bind pose. If we open up the female appearance editor, go to torso, let's see if her hands are working properly. Keep your fingers crossed. Well, maybe that is correct. It just looked weird to me. Oh no, they did get bigger. Yeah, that is working correctly now. Okay. But the nice way about doing this as well is that, you know, you don't end up with all the tail and the wings and all that kind of stuff. You can delete those off of the third way if you really want to, but like I said, and then it's a very light scene. So it has all the same animation and poses as before. So female walk, run, you know. So it has all of the same animations that it had before. And here are the poses. You know, so those are working. You will have to make your own layers. So you'd have to make your layer and name the layer and then hide it. Do the same thing. Create another layer, rename it, hide it, and so on and so on. Okay, and these avatars, they work just fine with MyAnimate Lite. You know, so these all are very much fully functional. I say the only thing that doesn't work are some of these things down here, like that auto mesh resizing. Awesome. Okay, so that's the second way. Let's do the third way. Okay, so and definitely click on these because, like I said, this helps prepare the scene. So we're gonna first we got to activate. We'll do a female bento because the only thing about these is if you're going to do it this way, you have to know beforehand, is it a bento avatar with fingers or is it just a regular fitted mesh avatar and I don't have to worry about the bento bones. Okay, so we start off with this female bento avatar. This is what you're used to. We click the step 2, import DAE FBX. Let's see, we'll do this link again. Now, nice thing about this is lots of times when you import it this way, you won't run into you won't have to fix that multiple bind pose. And so yeah, and then you have everything like you're used to. But you can see there's a lot more files in here, a lot more avatars in here. It's a lot heavier. Let's keep our eyes. Let's just get rid of that. Okay. So, and it's the same sort of thing where you'll have to create your own layers to clean it up a little bit. But if we could bind pose, got there. I don't know why she's looking off to the side like that. That's weird. Must have something to do with the bind pose that imported from the DAE. Okay, so how do you know? Let's start this a new scene. Okay, so how do you know what bones are being used? If it's using bento bones or not? You know, it's a good question. So let's import an FBX. Okay, let's import an FBX. Okay, I'm going to select it. Select the mesh only. Open up your editor, clear out the history so it's just a little bit cleaner. And then go to for earlier versions of Maya and click on skin cluster bone names. And there's all the bones that this particular mesh is rigged to. So look for things like M groin bone, all the finger bones, the hind legs, the tails, the wings, any of the face bones. If you see any of those in there, I would use the bento. I would use the bento avatar when you go to MayaStarize it. You know, these, so bento bones, you want to use the bento skeleton. Any of these regular bones that have been there a long time, yeah, I know the original avatar skeleton didn't have pec bones, if I remember correctly. It didn't have, no, or did it have pec bones? I don't think it had pec bones. But these, it's okay if you click on the original skeleton and use the original one with this one. That's okay. I consider the original skeleton the bones that had the fitted mesh bones in it. It was after bento that we added a bunch of new bones. And yeah, you want to keep an eye out for the spine bones, spine 2, 3, 4, 5, or whatever they're at. The M spine bones. Those were added with bento bones, although I don't think any avatar, custom avatar body actually uses those spine bones. So you wouldn't see them in here. So anyway, so that's how you tell. A couple of things. Warning, you know, some people were like, oh cool, with a lighter, less mesh in the scene, I can import more than one dev kit into a scene and the file won't be so huge. Yes, that's true, but I don't recommend it. Why? Because different avatar mesh body makers often use different poses, bind poses, and when you import a second avatar or a third avatar, dev kit avatar, you're going to lose the bind poses of the others. And you always want to rig to the bind pose of the avatar body that you're making your clothes for. And I mean, like, I know Shadeen of Slink, that she actually used the default bone positions for her avatars, or at least her female. I think she does, yeah, for the female at least. I know for sure. The male, she may have used the bind pose, the bone positions of the avatar when it's in the male slider position. But anyway, but for the female, definitely her bones are in the default bone positions. But I know there's other mesh body makers out there where either they're using a different bind pose, or they may even be using custom bone positions for their avatars. And so that's why I don't recommend bringing in other dev kits into the same scene. Plus, you're putting all your eggs in one basket, and if that file gets corrupted, then you've got to start from scratch and do everything all over again. And which has happened. I've had customers report to me that they had a bunch of different avatar dev kits in one scene out of convenience, and they used it for even years, and then something happened and their computer crashed and the file became corrupt, and yeah, they had to, it was a big mess, and I had to help her for a couple of hours to get it back to where it was workable. It wasn't ever quite, I don't think, quite the same as it was before, but it was usable. So yeah, so I don't advise having a bunch of different dev kits into one scene. It's not advisable. Now I would have, I know Slink has more than one body, and I think they all use the same bind pose. So she has the hourglass, and then she has the original, and so I think they both use the same bind pose. So that would be okay to have both of those in the scene. So you really got to check out to make sure that if you're bringing in a body, that it has the same bind pose, exact bind pose, and bone positions. So, which is usually the case for a particular body designer. So like Beleza or whoever has multiple different bodies and breast types, they're probably all using that particular single mesh body designer is probably using the same bind pose for all of them. Probably, but never 100% sure. Okay, but you can check it before you do it, but I don't know if it's worth it going through all that just to have them all in one scene when you could just save them in separate files and just have them all in one folder and then just open each one, you know, and do it that way. So anyway, so and believe me, Maya and your computer will like you more if the scenes are not as heavy. Don't have as many avatars in them. So okay, so that's pretty much the dev kit import of how to bring them all in, and yeah, and they all work with the MyAnimate Lite, and yeah, and so awesome. Okay, well, we'll see you in the next video.